Hello there and welcome to Dare to Outdo Yourself. I am your host, Prophetess Rhonda Phillips, and as always, I challenge you to take charge of your life through preparation, performance, and persistence. And so you were in for another exciting show on today. I have a very interesting guest here in the studio with me at this time, and we're talking about paper mirrors. And you may be asking, well, what in the world is paper mirrors? And so you're going to find out what that is in just a moment. But before you do, I want to take a moment to introduce to you a good friend of mine, had an opportunity to recently meet. His name is David Marrero. David, it's so good to have you with us on today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Now, David and I had an opportunity to meet recently. I was on a radio show. I was a guest in the studio doing an interview, and he was in the studio as well. And so we had an opportunity to find out that we have a lot of things in common. And that's interesting how when people meet and you connect, you realize that in the connection that there's more to it than just meets the eye. And so we're talking today with David Marrero about some great things that he's doing right now and things that we'll be collaborating on as well, and you'll learn about that later on in the show. But first, I want to talk about David. We want to find out a little bit about you. Where were you born and raised, and what was life like for you growing up?
Well, I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York, the Castle Hill Projects. I was born. I was raised. I bounced around. I lived with different family members growing up. My childhood was filled with a lot of domestic violence, a lot of drug use with family members and stuff, and just a troubled youth, basically. A lot of what inner city kids go through today.
Okay. So you grew up in the Bronx, and of course you're in Charlotte now.
That's correct.
So what is life like for you in Charlotte compared to being in New York? How do you like Charlotte?
I like Charlotte. I actually love Charlotte. I was longing for to be closer to nature, and also a warmer climate. And what happened was my wife's sister was out here for a couple of years, and then her mother was sick, and her mother came to stay with her sister for a little while, and we came to visit before her mother passed, and we liked it, and we decided to come down with the kids and stay.
Okay, well, that is awesome. Now, I know that you have some views and beliefs, philosophies that are so spot on, and of course when we talk about things that we're all dealing with in today's time, definitely I believe that it's really important for everyone to have a measure of understanding what is it that you believe in, and then why. And so I would like you to just share with our viewers what your beliefs are, what's your overall philosophy in general.
Well, I was rooted in Christianity. My mother studied with Jehovah's Witnesses. My grandmother was a Pentecostal. I have some Catholics. I have some non-denominational family members. So I was basically raised a Christian. But throughout my life, I've always questioned certain teachings and doctrine, and I was always rebellious towards the dogma or the institutionalization of religion. And it was through my experiences that I began to experience what people call God. And I began to redefine a lot of the beliefs that were instilled in me growing up that to me didn't really add up. So I guess through the course of my life, through a lot of hardships, just to touch a little bit about the name Paper Mirrors and how that came about and how that evolved. I was incarcerated for 4.5 years, And during my incarceration, you know, I was getting in trouble a lot. So I was always in solitary confinement, what we call the box. And there was one time I was in the box, and I had about 18 months that I was facing in the box, and I was just very angry, very rageful. Um, I blamed society. I blamed the government. You know, I blamed my mother. I blamed everybody for the difficulties that I faced in my lifetime. And there was one day, you know, to cut the story short. I was in my cell and I was waiting for mail, and I remember days had passed and I didn't receive any. And it was a Friday. We don't receive mail on a Saturday, and that Monday was a holiday. So I was real anxious for the mail. And when the correction officer passed my cell and I didn't get mail that day, I guess the rage and the anger and the loneliness and the depression just overwhelmed me to a point where I just broke down. And you know, I had a resentment with God, the God that I understood to be God through the teachings. And I remember just like calling out and saying, you know, if you're real, you know, help me. You know, and I was crying, and something happened, you know, during that course of the crying and the talking out loud, and which was praying. And I felt this cleansing feeling, and I began to feel light and a sense of peace and gratitude, which was missing out of my life. And I started to write, and I started to keep a journal, and then I started writing poetry and short stories. And something happened that day. It was like I had a spiritual awakening, you know. And then my life just kind of, you know, I still stumbled and I still go through my process, but there's an awareness today. There's a connection to my spirit, an inner dialogue that I have constantly. You know, it's like a constant reflection of myself, which brings me to the title of the book, you know, Paper Mirrors Reflections.
All right, all right. So, Paper Mirrors Reflections. That is, you know, a great title. I know Paper Mirrors. Of course, that's your nickname, and of course, the reflections. You know, everything that you just shared and acknowledged. You know, everything that you've been, you know, looking inwardly from within. Of course, and then of course that is magnified. You know, from without in terms of how you're representing and how you live your life. And so with that, you know, I know you shared that you've been incarcerated, and you know, for you to share your experience during that time of being incarcerated, that is awesome. That's something I never would have even imagined to wonder what it's like for someone to be incarcerated and to even go through the experience. And to share that, I'm like, wow. And many of us, you know, we go through day-to-day life that are the ones who, you know, are living in a measure of freedom in a sense, and we can make, you know, a big deal about other things, you know, and it's just interesting how, you know, we all go through different experiences in our life. There are certain things that, you know, may bother me and may get me to that point where I may go into a rage or become so upset and angry. And of course, someone may look at me and say, why are you tripping, you know? And then of course, to hear someone else, like, you know, you share your story about your experience during that time of being incarcerated. And I'm like, you know, wow. You know, it's like you never think about where they're dealing with, where they're going through in a time like that in their life. And so I thank you for sharing that. And I know that someone out there who's watching may be able to identify with that as well. And of course, appreciate you being candid and sharing, you know, your experience during that time. But with that, I know that, you know, because of your experiences and because of, you know, from the spiritual, you know, aspect of, you know, you learning some things about yourself, and of course with going back to your childhood, you know, the different religious backgrounds that you understood and learned about from your family and all of that too, and with where you are right now. What would you say is the biggest measure of transition with where you are right now compared to where you were when you were incarcerated, you know, just growing up, you know, knowing that you know, were in an environment where you said there were drugs, you know, domestic violence, all that. How is your life right now?
My life is totally different. Totally different. I'm a father of 5 children,
Okay.
which is challenging in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a supportive wife who stood by me through a lot of my trials and tribulations. It's just totally different. What I struggle with is managing, you know, managing being a father, the different roles that we play in life. And sometimes I'm a firm believer that the roles that we play, or the roles that we 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 uh, we do, or what's the word I'm trying to find. You know, roles don't define us. Roles are and titles are expressions of who we are. Who we are, uh, the essence of our being, is a reflection of God, because I believe that we was created in God's image, and we reflect that when we live from within, from within the spirit. So just balancing out life has been a challenge for me. Being a father, being an author, you know, working, trying to provide for the family, being a husband, and just trying to stay rooted in my spirituality, and expressing, what my purpose is, what's my passion in life, and just giving back, giving back to and helping others to awaken to their purpose as well, you know.
That's good. And I'm pleased to know that right now, again, men, being a female, it's very rare, for me to hear men, just be open and honest about what they're going through, what they're feeling, especially when you have different responsibilities in your life, like you just shared. Again, I'm sure that a lot of men out there can identify with what you just brought, to the forefront just now. But again, I'm sure women as well can appreciate you sharing, that you're facing, the different aspects of the roles that you play in your life, being a father, being a husband, and trying to take on the different responsibilities within that. And so again, when it comes down to you being in that place in your life right now with the things that are important to you, and you mentioned defining, knowing your passion. What is your passion right now? What is your passion, and do you know what your purpose is right now? Have you been able to define what that is?
Well, I have a lot of passions, but I think the direction that I've been tugged in, that's been gnawing at my spirit, has been communication. Whether it's writing, whether it's public speaking, whether it's facilitating a group, whether it's outreach in the street, just raising awareness, um, and helping others to cultivate their gifts, their natural, spiritual gifts and talents, and utilizing that to. I believe that's in alignment with our purpose in life. When we discover what we have a passion for, um, we're able to. It paves a path, a road for us to go to and go through. And I believe that God or the universe will conspire with us to bring that purpose into fruition. So my purpose in life is constantly being revealed to me as time moves forward. You understand? So I think that that's the mystery of life is exciting, because things unfold as your life, as you continue to progress in life.
That's good. You're sharing a lot of great information, in terms of, allowing a person, anyone who's watching right now, to be able to look within themselves. And I think that's so great. And of course, you're sharing a lot of things in terms of, your passion, bringing about awareness. And that is something that I'm really strong on as well. And that's how you and I were able to connect, because we realized, well, you started talking about something that you believed in. You had an opportunity to hear me, share during the radio interview some of the things that that are really dear to me in terms of, what, I believe that God has called me to do right now in terms of just, moving forward with empowerment and helping others to become empowered. And in the process, you and I had an opportunity to just talk and discover, well, gosh, our measure of belief in terms of, bringing about awareness in so many different forms in terms of purpose and of course, empowerment and helping others to be able to be in a position where you can help them in whatever way you can based upon your passion where you are, and to know that you can help others in return, and that is so important and so key. And so you and I we've been in talks. We're working on collaborating to do some things together in the way of reaching out to people in that way. And of course, we don't have everything solidified as of now as we speak, but we are working on some things here. So I'm not sure if you want to touch on that at all. I'll let you be the one to bring that to the forefront at this time.
Yeah, well, I was actually looking, I had posted on my Facebook, and I've been networking and reaching out. I was looking for a female, a woman co-host for a radio show. And I didn't even know you was coming on that morning. And when I got there, you came in, and when I heard you speaking, it was like, there she goes. I was like, wow, and I hope, I didn't even know that, because David is your husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I'm also filming a documentary, so I see the cameraman, I see the lady that, the woman that's the co-host, and I'm just visioning this whole process, and I'm like, it just felt right. So I proposed, I made that proposal to you, and I also reached out to Dave as well. So I'm just hoping that, things come together.
Well, and I believe they will. And of course, again, we're in the early stages of trying to get some things collaborated, but that's what I want to just bring to your attention, viewers, how important it is to not lose sight of, people that may come your way. Anytime you're anywhere. I know that networking with David is something that he's really strong on and big on. And I talked about that during the radio interview when he and I met. And I know that's important just as well, but we must not take it lightly when we have an opportunity to, meet other people along our path and our walk in life, and not lose sight of, what is it that I can contribute to their life, and what is it that they can contribute to my life, and how we can all help one another, make great things happen in our collaborations together. And so I just want to encourage someone out there. You may, be in a position where there are some things that you may be led to do in your life. And you may meet someone along the way, and just like with myself, I had no idea that I would meet you when we met, and likewise. And we must not, again, lose sight of what is it that God is trying to do in the process, and listen, because the thing is that, if David had not asked me some questions, if I had not, share information about, the things that I'm doing in the way of empowerment coaching, he would not have learned some things about me. But by the same token, too, I started asking him some questions and learned that other things that we like to do in terms of, we have different skills in terms of web design, as another example. I didn't even know that, but of course, we in our discussion, talking, we learned that. But that's why I say you have to know how to ask questions, and listening is really, really important. And so I just want to encourage someone out there, to make sure that if you happen to meet someone, whether it be at a bus stop, you could be at the line of the grocery store, you could, be somewhere, where you happen to be in a meeting, and someone else is there that you didn't expect to meet. And of course, be kind enough to say, hi, how are you doing? And of course, not be afraid to start a conversation. And so many times we just keep to ourselves, and we have so much information, so much knowledge, so many skills that we can contribute and bring to the table. But if you don't open your mouth, if you don't take the time to conversate with anyone else, you won't know what they have, and they won't know what you have to offer, that perhaps the two of you all could collaborate, or even a handful of people could get together and collaborate and make great things happen. So I just wanted to encourage someone out there with that. But moving right along, I want to talk a little bit more with you, David, about your book. And it's titled Paper Mirrors, Reflections Written in Pensoul. And of course, Pensoul is a play on words. It's spelled Pensoul. I thought that was very catchy. So if you could just share with us a little bit about your book.
Well, I have, during my incarceration, I mean, I wrote volumes. I have volumes of stuff, and it was in a duffel bag that I've been lugging around for the past 7 years. And, you know, again, in my heart, I had this vision, and, you know, of course, losing focus, deviating from my process and stuff like that. But what happened was, my grandmother, both my grandmothers passed away in June. Well, one last year, and that death kind of, I kind of spiraled out of control into depression. I started to, you know, hang out again. There was a separation at home with my wife and stuff, and I just lost complete focus at the time. Not using that as an excuse, but I guess I did use it as an excuse to kind of, you know, spiral out of control a little bit there. And then my grandmother passed away, my other grandmother, in June, and then my cousin in July, my grandfather in August, and I decided I discovered that I was grieving. I had unresolved issues as far, because I lost most of my friends to the streets as well. And I have a piece in my book entitled, you know, Letter to My Aborted Child. And in '97, I had you know, my girlfriend was pregnant, and her family forced her to have an abortion. And I didn't realize it then how much it affected me until one day, you know, sitting still, you know, in the quiet, I knew that there was always this empty feeling that I couldn't really put my finger on. And I remember coming to terms with, I felt like there was this little boy that was missing in my life. And I realized that I was grieving that loss and not even realizing it. And when my grandmother passed, and then my cousin, and it was like I was dealing with all these losses, it was like everything was coming to the surface now. And it was impossible for me to, you know, eating, you know, wasn't doing it for me anymore. You know, partying wasn't doing it for me anymore. It was like that constant, present tug of my spirit, like wanting to be free. And I began to write, and the book, you know, this book came about, and I decided to publish it, and that's how that book came about, you know. And I entitled it "Written in Pen Soul," because it's coming from my soul, you know.
That was truly awesome, and I can definitely relate to you in terms of having, you know, emotions and not understanding, you know, there's an emptiness, you know, going on inside of you. I can definitely relate to that too, because as a writer myself, as an author, you know, I could just share, you know, with, you know, how I started writing. I was young, I was a little girl, and of course, you know, I was brought up in an environment where, you know, it's do as I say, not as I do. And you know, you speak when you're told to speak, kind of thing. So that's what I was used to. And in the process, you know, I you know, grew up just basically having to express myself through writing. And so, you know, just like you know, not, you know, as you begin to start feeling emptiness and start realizing and seeing, you know why, you know, I understand now why I see this the way that I do, or why I feel the way that I do, and I began to start writing things down, and that was a way that I was able to release, you know, not having so much, you know, stuff on the inside of me, but being able to just express it on paper, and that's how I started writing, and so I can definitely relate to you in terms of, you know, understanding, you know, just to be able to take everything that you have going on inside of you and to be able to express it on paper, and it's awesome that you've taken the time out to actually write everything out, and now you have produced a book. and authored a book. And so, can you tell our viewers how can they get in contact with you? They want to learn more information about you, PaperMirrors, David Marrero, as well as your book, Written in Pencil. How can they learn more information about how to reach you and of course, how to get your book?
Well, my book is available on Amazon.com and also on Lulu.com. That's LULU.com. And then you just type in Written in Pencil, PaperMirrors Reflections. I also have a blog, PaperMirrorsReflections.blogspot.com as well, where I post a lot of information, a lot of health type of information, spiritual practices. And I'm also on Facebook and Twitter and all the other social networks. If you just Google PaperMirrors Reflections, all my stuff will come up, the book, everything. I had the opportunity, if I may, to give my book to Michelle Obama yesterday, and to the mayor of Charlotte as well. And it was a sense of accomplishment. Like,
wow.
And this is my message. This is if I could put my message in a nutshell, this is what it would be, that we're powerful. We're powerful beings. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. I believe that God is beyond belief. Once we start to experience God, it is no longer a belief, it's a knowing. I know that there's a God. I know that there's a direct relationship and connection between us all as a whole. I also want to share that, when I came to Charlotte, my wife and I left good jobs, what we call good jobs in this society, benefits, the whole, that type of stuff, and it was like a leap of faith. Like, you know what, listen, we're skillful, yes, it's good jobs, but your mother needs you right now, I want a different life for my family and my children, and we left, and I started to design websites for businesses when I came out here, and it took care of the family. I need to say how important it is to have a support network, like my brother right here, who's filming for me as well. My brother Shannon, he's a father as well, and a lot of times men, when you were sharing how it's commendable that men share their feelings and stuff, like when I was in the street, I wasn't hanging out on the corner and saying, listen, I have low self-esteem, they'll laugh at you, like, what the heck is this guy talking about, but I just want to say this real quick. It's important to have a support network and to draw strength, from other men, fathers and stuff like that. So, and that if we united and we started to contribute and put our skills together, there's nothing we can't do,
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for watching. Go out, do yourself, and as always, prepare, perform, and persist.
Thank you.